welcome to another episode of our Inner Sparks featured stories. I am Lily Yan, your host of this podcast and founder of our Inner Sparks Network, a network of ordinary women sharing our extraordinary stories. We all have so many inspiring women around us in our lives. We need to acknowledge and celebrate each of these women's successes. Let's do that together. Let's use these opportunities as ways to inspire and empower each other and others. Join me to discover, embody, and share our inner sparks. Today we have the pleasure of meeting Jennifer Tung. Actually, Jennifer and I have known each other for many years. She's been extremely active in the music world in the Toronto area. And today I had the pleasure of inviting her onto our Inner Sparks show and to tell us a little bit about all the work she's been doing, as well as all the vision that she has for the future of the classic music organization that she's involved in. So without further ado, let's meet Jennifer Tung. Hi, Jennifer. Welcome to our Inner Sparks feature stories.
Hello, how are you doing this morning?
Oh, I'm awesome. Glad that you're able to join us today and share your story. I'm very excited because I think you are involved in so many wonderful music programs in the city of Toronto and areas. Can't wait to have more discussions around all of those.
Very happy to be here today.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So why don't we get started with the program by giving an introduction to the audience who Jennifer is, and then also give us a better idea of all the different roles that you take on in the various organizations that you're involved with.
Sure. So I am an immigrant. I actually grew up in Hong Kong. I finished my high school education, in Hong Kong before I went to university in the United States. And I did both of my degrees at the Eastman School of Music. I did my undergraduate in vocal performance, and I did my master's degree in collaborative piano. And shortly after I graduated from Eastman, I moved from Rochester, New York, up here, to Toronto, and have settled actually in Mississauga for many, many years. And I have just recently, moved to Etobicoke. And as far as the number of hats that I wear, I've worn many hats and continues to wear many hats, which I really enjoy. So currently, I am in the voice faculty of the Gould School at the Royal Conservatory of Music. I'm the artistic director of an indie opera company called Toronto City Opera. I'm the assistant conductor of the Mississauga Symphony and the Mississauga Symphony Youth Orchestra, and the artistic director of Mississauga Children's Choir.
That's a lot of hats. And it's amazing that you're able to keep up with all of that and contributing to the community's growth, right? In many ways from a music standpoint. It's definitely demonstrating through your experiences that you're really passionate about music.
Yes, definitely. Music and especially education and,
yes.
And sort of building opportunities to nurture the next generation.
Absolutely. How did you discover that that music was your passion in the first place?
Actually, it's kind of funny. I didn't start piano when I was at a very young age, but I actually don't even remember this, but my mom used to tell me that my sister, who was 7.5 years older than me, would take piano lessons at home. And she said I was around 2, at the time. And my sister would have piano lessons, and I would be disrupting their piano lesson all the time by coming into the room and started playing on the piano.
Oh.
And I actually don't remember that. And so fast forward, and I actually didn't really start playing piano until I was 6, which, in pianist terms, is a little bit late. And I actually only had lessons for about a year, and I lost interest, so I stopped, and I didn't restart again until I was 9.
Oh, wow.
And I switched teachers. I was studying with somebody else at 6 because my sister's piano teacher wouldn't take students that are too young. And so then, I stopped, and then I actually switched to that piano teacher by the time I was 9, and the rest was history. She was really the right teacher for me. I started doing lots of competitions, and I was fortunate enough, to win a lot of them. And by the time I was 10 and a half, I did my first international competition and got an honorable mention of my age group.
Oh, that's incredible! At that age,
Yeah,
international
so
means.
yeah, and so I was, I was very happy, and then it kind of just went from there. And I was really lucky to have gone to an elementary and high school that has a really strong music and choral program. So I started singing in choirs when I was at school, and one of the teachers actually told me, said, "Hey, you have a really nice voice. Have you ever considered taking voice lessons?" And so I hadn't at the time, and so it was not until 15 when I started taking my first voice lesson with my then music teacher at school.
Right.
And she was actually continued to be my teacher until I went to university.
Wow. Yeah. And actually, that brings up a really good point, because you mentioned earlier that you're not only interested in the music itself, but also in the education program. And I know you're involved in many of those kind of programs for children's music education. What would you say, I guess, for parents? Okay, so this is kind of a recommendation to foster their children's interest. Because obviously, like what you just said, you started at 6 and then you lost interest. And then you picked it up, again at 9. And I know there's a lot of parents out there, and I've spoken to many as well as, talked to my own kids who have kind of done something, joined some clubs or, choirs, and then all of a sudden just didn't want to do it anymore and lost interest. Then how do you, like, as parents, also then continue to foster the need for the music in a child's life, and maybe not just music, from a hobby perspective? How do we then, continue to promote these things with them without really seemingly pushing them towards it? Because that we also know sometimes can be counterproductive.
Yeah, that's always a tricky issue. So I think that exposure is the number one key to get kids, to be interested. So my family actually is not musical. I am the only one sort of in the immediate family that is in the music, professional music business. When I was young, my mom, although she did sing, in school choirs and stuff like that, she wasn't really a musician and didn't really know, like what to do. So what she did, and I remember at a very young age, probably starting at around 9 or 10 when I started being really serious in piano, was every Christmas, one of my Christmas presents was always a subscription series to Hong Kong Philharmonic Orchestra.
Oh.
And so my mom would insist that, she would give that to me, and she wouldn't go, because it would be too expensive for both of us to go. And so she would just buy me a ticket, for a subscription. And I would pick the concerts that I want to go to. And she would just drop me off, like at the city hall. And then I would go to the concert, and then, then she'd come and pick me up. And believe it or not, well, I mean, I have to say, I didn't enjoy every single concert that I went to, but through osmosis and just being there, as I started growing up and getting more in touch with, other genres of music, you start to remember, when you're younger, what you were exposed to, and you start to learn to appreciate, those things. So I think that exposure is number one. And number two, there's absolutely no way around it. The educator that you allow your children, to be taught by, has absolutely a huge impact, on your children's artistic education, or any education for that matter. But definitely in the artistic, education, you want to pick organizations and, and instructors that are interested in the child's growth. It's not just pushing, not for any other agenda other than to expose them to better education, for them to understand, the art. And I am, although, I mean, of course I have had many students and continue to have many students who moved on, and now they are in a music school, some of the top music schools in the world. Some of them have graduated with doctorates, and they are teaching music now in universities themselves. But a very big majority of my students have continue to grow, not being a professional musician, but what they are is that they're very avid appreciators, like of
Of
music,
course.
and they as supporters of music, and we actually really need those, like as well. And so I really believe that a broad children's education in the arts is absolutely important in order for the artistic industry to to continue to survive.
Right, absolutely. I totally agree. I think, you know, in education system today, we
Yeah,
often very quickly cut off these type of programs where,
yeah.
uh, unfortunately, the children's creative side gets stifled, right?
Mhm.
Um,
And I think that one of the also important thing is, when you are 9 and 10, or
yeah,
6, who wants to actually sit there and practice for 3 hours a day,
right.
right? No
That's kind of
6-year-old
the
is going to
point with a lot of
automatically
parents.
want to do that. So, and from a parent's point of view, there will be difficult times that you're going to have to push through, because kids are just kids. They don't understand sometimes what's the best for them.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so as a parent, I think that, like whatever you want to call it, pushing a kid, whatever, but is actually asking them to stay committed in
Right.
something that
Yeah.
they have started, like
Yeah.
doing,
Yeah.
and teaching them the values of being disciplined. And really, that can be anything. It could be sports,
Yes.
it could
Yeah.
be arts, it could be, anything. But I think that it's the concept, of teaching. And I think that arts really does that, with discipline. A lot of times it's group work, if you're involved in the group,
Right.
organization, learning to work with others. And in the case of, doing piano, as a solo thing, is learning how to be self-disciplined and self-motivated.
Right.
So there are a lot of really, I think, valuable lessons that can be learned, and not just like, wanting your kid to be the next Lang Lang, like in
Right.
piano, for
Right.
example.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So true though. Like I think a lot of parents, worry about pushing, but also some parents are more for pushing. But I think it's really the purpose, the intent behind it, right? It's to
Yes.
help them get that self discipline, or learn
Yes.
that through the act of
Absolutely.
practicing daily. And
Yeah.
it's really the approach of it, right? Like, I mean, I think,
Yes.
as long as it's coming from a respectful and kind approach, then the kids will
Yes.
probably be able to take that over time. And
Yeah.
really, like you said, as they age, they're going to appreciate that.
And
Right?
and
Just like the
usually,
exposure.
yeah, usually that's what you see, and I have had many students that I've taught starting at a young age, especially, in voice. I've had a student who is now going into second year of university in voice,
Nice.
and I started teaching her when she was 10.
Wow.
And so we've gone through the whole spectrum,
Mhm.
of not wanting to practice, feeling difficult, wanting to give up, and stuff like that. But they're just simply stages of lives that you
Right.
just have to work through.
And it's
You
so
know,
important for them to grasp that early in the childhood anyway, so
yeah,
that it becomes easier as they get into adulthood to
absolutely,
deal with the
absolutely,
challenges.
yeah.
Absolutely. So, what do you enjoy the most about educating children?
Education, from a young age, and seeing them grow into people, seeing them develop their own individuality, and blossom as human beings as well as artists, like, of course, is definitely the most engaging thing for me as an educator.
Absolutely.
And seeing them, learning to appreciate overcoming obstacles and being self-motivated, it's unbelievable, to see. And even seeing them falling down, which of course happens in the normal journey, and seeing them learning how to tackle that, and become more mature, like as human beings.
Right.
Very exciting, to see. And I think that that is one of the most sort of fulfilling things, as an educator of children, I think.
Yeah, well said. I actually think it's not that applies kind of throughout all age, right? So you,
Yes,
right,
but especially in children, because they change so much so quickly.
so true, so true. As we mentioned, you are involved in so many amazing things in
Mm.
music. Just curious, like, as you were kind of growing up yourself, what
Mhm.
made you choose to go into full-time career in music? Because there's a lot of people who are passionate about music, just like you said, and they don't end up holding a career,
Mhm.
lifelong career in music. What came to you that became the inspiration and motivation behind turning this into a career?
This will not be a typical answer of what you would get in
Okay.
somebody who is in professional music. So I got into music in, like really, really involved in music. Probably I would say, like, starting in grade 7, 8, 9. And actually, my sister had a lot to do with it. So my sister is a brilliant academic who was involved in the financial field, a lot. And so we went to the same schools, like growing up, and she was always the star because she was really great in academics, and I wasn't so much, growing up, being brilliant in academics. And so for a long time, I really felt like that I was always living in the shadow, of my sister. The one thing, as I started playing piano, I improved very quickly and got recognition very quickly in about a year or two. And I actually surpassed my sister in the level, of piano playing after a few years, of being in lesson. And so I thought, wow, finally, I found something that I actually excel at and people actually pay attention to me. That was actually why I got into music in the first place.
Right.
Was because I was really good at it.
Right.
And then I think, as life went on and music had become a bigger and bigger part, in my life, singing in choirs and, being teaching assistant, like in high school. My voice teacher at the time, Stephanie Chan, had a huge impact, I think, on me. I mean, I was really connected, to her, and I really looked up to her.
Right.
And I think that the more I got involved, in singing lessons and, and in choir, and to a certain extent, I was doing a lot of accompanying, as well. I really got into it and thought I would really enjoy, making a career being a singer. And so it really wasn't until the last couple of years of high school that I have decided that this is definitely what I wanted to do.
Wow. You started quite young still, like I think 9 and 10. I mean, it's too early to really determine what you want to do in life, right?
Yeah.
So I think most people would choose to kind of do that. But I think a lot of people hesitate to go to music because it's sometimes seen as, not, you don't make enough money to support yourself.
Yes.
Right? There's a lot of fear, both from the parent side and from the individuals.
Of course.
Right? And so I guess for you, was that a challenge at all for you or your parents?
So I was really lucky that my mom basically said to me, look, whatever it is that you feel passionate and that you want to do, to pursue as a career, I'm okay and will support you. But
that's so nice.
the ground rules is that she's like, you have to be 100% committed to what you do.
Right.
And you will have to promise me that you will always work and try your best in every opportunity that you're going to get. And that's indeed, like what happened. I mean, I moved away, from Hong Kong, to the States, and being on my own, and I didn't have any family in Rochester. And so self-motivation and really pushing, and and I think it also really helped, that my mother is a single mother. My father passed away in a car accident when I was 12, and so my mother really just raised both of us. And I always, she has always been a role model, for me. She's worked so hard, in her field, and especially being a woman. She worked in the government as a civil servant in the housing department, and she worked to quite a high position. And of course, in her generation, that was very unusual.
That's amazing. That's true.
And so I would have to say that, believe it or not, she is actually my biggest inspiration to succeed in anything that I chose to do, even till this day.
She showed you how to be a strong woman, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Sounds inspirational. You've done so much in the local community. And what would you say is, some of the best things that you've been a part of?
Wow. That's a difficult choice, I think.
I know, because you've been involved in so many.
So, I mean, the number of organizations that I am, that I am involved with the exception of the Gould School, which is a school, to develop professional musicians, are actually very community oriented. So with Mississauga Symphony, with the youth symphony program, it's been amazing, to see so many kids, who first started taking instrumental lessons, and really there aren't a lot of schools now these days that have instrumental programs. And even if they do, most of them are just band. So at the symphony orchestra, which is an entirely different beast altogether, there really aren't that many organizations out there that provides that, like for students. And so I'm actually really proud to be involved, like with them and providing opportunities for them to learn what it feels like to play, in a symphony orchestra, and learning how to be better, not just as a soloist, but how to collaborate, with other people, learning how to be disciplined. We treat them, at the Youth Symphony, like professional adults. And we expect that, like from them. And so a lot of them, when they graduate, like from the symphony, and usually it's in their grade 12 year after they finish, and they usually, some of them actually go on to become music students at universities. But a lot of them, grow up, to be doctors and accountants and, and engineers, and so on and so forth. And they have all come back and said that the experience that they have gotten from the symphony training has helped them, as human beings, to tackle the difficulties that they have encountered, like throughout, their university, and career choices.
Yeah.
And that's always very, very uplifting to hear stories, like that. And the other organization, Mississauga Children's Choir, which I've just started working with them this past season, it's been amazing to see, the organization grow. And me, as a person who, really believes in music education, not necessarily turning out professional musicians, but allowing the kids to learn, the artistic way. I have seen a lot of children, going through the program this past year, how much they have improved in their self-confidence, in their love for art in general, not just for singing, and friends that they have made, which likely will be, a lot of them will be lifelong friendships.
Right.
And that's really amazing, like to see that, I am a little part of this community that continues to grow in the arts.
Yeah, sounds amazing. And it's also collaboration too, I think. Kids at that age don't kind of necessarily understand the concept of it, but coming together and building something, artistic and beautiful, and creates that opportunity for them to collaborate. That's something
I think that also, with the growing trend with family units being smaller, I think that these kind of community activities become more and more important. With children meeting like-minded children.
Yes,
that love the same thing. I think that experience becomes more important as the family unit keeps getting smaller and smaller.
Right, absolutely. And then what about the opera?
And so the opera, so what's interesting is that the Indie Company of Toronto City Opera is it's actually a community group, because the core of the company is actually a non-audition community chorus. So what it does is that, our chorus are people who are just really passionate about being, involved, in opera. And some of them have lots of prior experience, but I also do have people in the chorus that have very little, experience and just really want to learn. And so that makes it a little bit challenging on my part as the conductor, to create a program that works with, different levels, of people, but actually we've been quite successful, at doing that, and they have real hands-on experience, because we do 2 full productions a year, with chorus and with soloists. So the other part of the company that I'm very proud of is that, we hire local up-and-coming young artists and creating opportunities for them, as they are finishing school or they're in between school and really starting their career, to give them performance experiences, different opera productions. And so we do everything with piano, because, we're a small company, and hiring an orchestra costs a lot of money.
Right.
But, hopefully, with my work in different organizations, and maybe I can find a way to make the different organizations collaborate.
That sounds amazing. If they could,
and expanding, but that will be a multi-year project, for sure. But it's amazing to see, the community, and a lot of the people are retired, but we do have some, people who are still in the working field, and seeing them falling in love with the process and taking their time when they are not working to work really hard, to practice, to memorize, to work on their staging, to see the passion of these people who are not professional musicians and giving their all every single rehearsal and every single performance. That, I have to say, is one of the most fulfilling things that I can possibly do.
That's awesome. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And it just sounds, it sends chills through my back actually when you say that. And that's kind of amazing that you like you said, you're in so many different communities and you're seeing all these people coming in from different, age, different walks of life.
Yes.
They're just enjoying their passion and they're putting their all in it.
Mm-hmm.
And being a part of that, and then also talking about that long-term vision of bringing all these things together. That sounds amazing. I can't wait for amazing things to come out of that.
I see that the future of the art industry is collaboration. I think it's the way to move forward.
Nice. Yes, agree. So let's talk about some of the challenges. So I think two aspects, I suppose. One, what is a challenge for the art community in the first place? Okay. And then number two, what have you observed since the pandemic?
There, I think many different things that have been happening since the pandemic. I think it happened so sudden.
Yes.
That it was really difficult, for people to pivot, because it's so unexpected, with all of this happening. What I find was amazing was that the people's willingness, to try new things and to see the possibilities. And I think that this is what this pandemic has done, is that it has literally forced people to go out of their box,
right?
To try new things and see what's actually possible.
Right.
And there's a lot of, collaboration, that has happened, throughout this pandemic. I have collaborated with people with live streaming, a concert from a studio that I've never collaborated with before, which was very exciting. And moving online with rehearsals, with the Mississauga Children's Chorus, and figuring out how is it possible to run, ensemble rehearsals, and seeing the resilience of the children, their willingness to do something different than what they've always done.
Right.
And I think that, seeing them grow, and in this environment has been unbelievable. Of course, the challenges, are we miss the human contact. You join a choir because you want to connect with other human beings,
right.
And you join an orchestra because you want to connect and play, with other people. And so putting it in an online format, even with the best of intentions, becomes quite impossible,
right?
To do. It's all evolving,
yes.
Process, and it still continues to evolve, and I think it will continue to evolve in the months to come. Right. Teaching at the Gould School, we have also moved online for the rest of the semester, and will continue to go online in the fall. And instructors learning how to overcome the technical, issues.
Yes.
Many of them who are not used to doing things, online.
Yeah.
And their willingness of learning the new technology. It's amazing, actually.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's amazing to see, and we are all in this together. And more than ever, you see people who normally don't talk to each other or won't connect otherwise are connecting. And I think that this will be one of the positive things that will come out.
Nice. Good point. Many good points in that.
But definitely sad that I've not been able to perform to live audience. I'm not going to lie. That's one of the things that I have really, really missed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about in general? So even prior to pandemic, I know arts program has always had its own challenges, right?
Arts it's always like, it's always been challenging, since, before the pandemic, especially with times, like changing, and the arts, or the sector of the arts that I'm involved in, are classical music.
Right.
Which means that, it's an old art, right? It's not pop music, it's not Ariana Grande, that is not, what we're doing. And so with, I think the arts and entertainment sector, like constantly changing, finding the classical arts and feeling like you need to compete, like with entertainment,
Right.
Continues to be one of the most challenging things. I personally don't think that it's a competition. I think that classical arts is simply not, in a way that entertainment industry is not what classical arts actually is. Classical arts, just like, going to a museum and looking at paintings and looking at sculptures, by Monet or Da Vinci, it challenges you to think about things like you have never thought before, and seeing things from different angles. And I think that that's what classical arts, even contemporary ones, continue to challenge us. And although it is entertaining, and it can be very much entertaining, I think that it's much beyond just the entertainment value, like a pop concert, or or going to watch a movie, is. I mean, I think it's exactly the difference between, an art film versus a blockbuster,
Right.
Cinematic, like thing. And they are both in the same medium, but they represent different sectors, like of the art. And I think that that's exactly it between pop music and classical arts. We exist basically on the same platform, but the ideals that we represent are not the same.
Right.
And I think that once we remember that, then we are able to continue to expand and innovate, and not feel like that we're actually competing,
Right.
like with something else.
Yeah, actually, the part on you just mentioned innovate. I
Yeah.
do wonder at times, because classical art, a lot of people do think, it's eventually just going to drift away. But I do believe that there is a space in there where the classical and the modern, or not even just modern, but the pop,
Yeah.
potentially have a space of collaboration of some sort.
Absolutely.
Right?
And I think that, we're very lucky actually in Toronto. There are many companies and artists that are already doing that kind of work.
Nice.
And it's actually amazing. And I can't say that is true, in every other city, but in Toronto, we're certainly very fortunate that the indie space, for classical arts is actually quite alive and well.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
So what's next for Jennifer? What is your goal, the next goal to achieve?
With all the different companies that I'm involved with, I feel like that I'm actually in a very good space to continue to innovate and expand with the current companies that I'm working with, and seeing new ways to engage audience, to come, and experience, this art, to continue to find ways to engage the young ones, to get involved, so that they will hopefully be the future, influencers,
Right.
of this art. And I really see that, this will probably be my future for a good, number of years that I'm doing. I mean, my really big dream as a professional artist, is that I would love to be more involved in opera conducting, which I have been doing, for the last few years. I'm very fortunate. I have an amazing mentor, who is the music director of the Mississauga Symphony Orchestra, Dennis Mastromonaco, and he has been such an inspiration, and he has helped me, tremendously in my development as a conductor and as a music director and artistic director, of companies. And actually, without meeting him, I definitely wouldn't be where I am, today. Yeah. Because it's been a very big pivot in the last 4 years, so since I really started getting serious in conducting, that I have started being music directors and artistic directors of organizations, which are a little bit different than as a performer. or even as a coach, which is what a big chunk of my career has been before that.
Right, right.
And so I feel like that I'm very fortunate to be in these positions where I can actually make decisions to make changes, you know, in the sector, and it's both really rewarding and scary, you know, like at the same time, you know, because it means, you know, making a lot of decisions and really being responsible for, you know, for those decisions. But it is definitely a big responsibility, but I'm very excited.
And also pushing the limits, because I think you're in a position to do so now, right?
Yes, absolutely, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
We're getting to the last segment of the program, which is called In Search of True Fulfillment. So in this segment, I ask 3 questions, and all of which you can answer with a short sentence or maybe 10 words to describe your answers to it.
Okay.
Okay, so the first question is, how do you define success?
Being happy and fulfilled in what you do.
Well said. So then in the next question, what makes you happy in life? What is happiness?
Feeling that I am able to share my passion and joy and infect other people around me.
Oh, I love that. It's amazing. And this is kind of what I'm doing, why I'm doing Our Inner Sparks. It's very similar. It gives me happiness to know that I'm sharing my passion, I'm sharing other people's passion, other women's passion, and to help spread the words and celebrate with them. And then also, like you said, hopefully become contagious in
in a good way.
In a good way, absolutely, because we need a lot of that right now. And staying positive, staying happy and healthy in your lives, and it takes a lot now, especially when the time's not so good, right? So that's amazing. Thank you. Last question: what is one thing that you would like someone who's listening to take away from your story that would help them ignite or harvest their inner sparks?
That you can realize your dream and your passion through hard work. Hard work and integrity will always prevail.
Love that. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, listen, Jennifer, it's such a pleasure. You and I know each other for a long time. It's been such a pleasure to catch up with you, because I know you've been doing so many amazing things, and I've been reading a lot about it, but really haven't had a lot of chance to catch up with you. So what a great opportunity to find out all these wonderful things you're working on in the music community in Toronto area. And I'm just so thrilled to hear some of your vision in long term, and looking forward to a lot of that, you know, realizing. So thank you so much for your dedication in the community.
Thank you for having me and allowing me to you know, share my passion, you know, with you and with everybody who is going to be listening to this.
All right. Well, it's wonderful. Thank you so much. And we're going to be putting all of the links to the different organizations as well in our show notes. I guess before you go, I would like to ask one more question regarding if people are interested in, you know, creative programs like that. What would you recommend them do as a first step?
I would say definitely to go and search out for community programs that are available, you know, in your area, and actually go try them out. You know, a lot of times you see, you know, like on websites, you know, and it's all really great, but you don't really know what it's like until you are actually involved, you know, in it. Give it a chance. Even if it's something that feels very foreign or seems very foreign, you know, like to you, you may find it very surprising, you know, once you actually get involved, you know, with it.
Very good. Great suggestion. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Awesome talking to you. Talk to you later.
Goodbye.
Bye.
If you enjoy our Inner Sparks contents, I encourage you to subscribe and follow and share with your friends and family. Your thoughts on this episode is encouraged on all our social media sites, which are listed in the podcast description. If you have any feedback on this podcast, the social media sites, and this network as a whole, please feel free to email me at ourinnersparks@gmail.com. Should you or someone in your life have an inspiring story you would like to see shared in our network, please feel free to email me with a nomination for future features. Thank you for listening to this episode of Our Inner Sparks Featured Stories.